Okay, hi everyone. I just remembered as we were doing this that I was going to put my phone on today, so I have to fix that in case anybody has comments, since sometimes they don't really work well and come up on the screen. So I'm going to put my phone on. Hi Jenny. I'm so glad you're here. All right, the comments are coming, so I'm not as worried. Sometimes they don't show up, and then, of course, I worry. So anyway, I just haven't popped on in a while, and I wanted to introduce myself to some new friends, and I wanted to welcome back some old friends. It's been a little while since I've had a live, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bonnie, Bonnie Sonnenberg, and I am a narcissist abusive survivor, a domestic violence survivor. Hi, Mommy. And I'm also, because I don't let that define me, I'm a mother of two beautiful, of course, children, a daughter, a sister, a wife. So I have a lot of hats, just like the rest of you do. But I thought that if you join my group, you probably have a story similar to mine. And so I guess I felt that there were a lot of new members, which I was so happy about, but that maybe you would need to hear my story again to understand that I have walked in your shoes, and I have been you, and I'm not somebody who says I can help you and not have experienced what we have all experienced. So I'm going to share my story with you, and then I'm going to go into a little bit about how I can help you. So I met my ex-husband when I was 15, and he was 16. And at the time, of course, you're 15 and 16, so you don't really realize that something's off. Looking back, there are a lot of clues, a lot of memories, a lot of information that looking in the rear view mirror helps you find. Especially the fact that I was constantly asking him, are you mad at me? So now as an adult, 30 years later, I see that that was a signal right there because of the love bombing, withholding love kind of cycle. So the narcissistic abuse for me started when I was 15, but I couldn't see it, and it was very subtle, so people, it's not like it was blatant and people could see it and they warned me. It was nothing like that. It was very, very subtle. So we dated the entire time. We were in high school, and by that time I was trauma bonded to him. So I didn't want to go away to college. I didn't want to go anywhere without him. I only wanted to be with him 24/7. So I'm sure those of you that are watching are familiar with trauma bonds, have been through them, and I've done a bunch of lives on trauma bonds because they play such an important role in our recovery. And it takes the guilt and the wonder of, why do I still love him? Why do I still care about him? Why am I still thinking about him? It answers all those questions when you learn that trauma bonds are really just neurological issues that we've been trained to exert while we were in an abusive situation. So by the time I graduated high school, I was definitely trauma bonded, and so I didn't want to go away to college. So for the first 2 years, I stayed home, and then the next 2 years in college, I did go away, but I was one of those commuter students. So my parents did try to have me stay in the dorm. It was, you would think the world had collapsed around me. I was very sad and upset, and it just didn't work for me psychologically, because at the time we didn't know any better. We just thought I was homesick and I liked living at home. But the truth was, I was already in the cycle, and so being without him made me feel incomplete and made me feel like I can't make a decision or move or think without him next to me. So for people who are just hearing that for the first time, I know what that feels like. It's scary. It's scary when you lose who you are as a person and you don't know who to turn to except your abuser. It's not fun. But at that point, I still didn't know that I was in any sort of abusive situation, because he would get nasty, but he would not get physical. And we would go through the whole cycle of love bombing, discarding, talking to me, not talking to me. And so it was constant. And so by the time I got married at 22, I was pretty trained in his behavior. Going from my mother's house to living with him and getting married was a shocker to me, because that's when the narcissism really started coming out. We were obviously married and living together, and nothing I did was ever good enough for him. Nothing I cooked was good enough. I couldn't balance the checkbook. If I woke him up in the morning to just give him a kiss goodbye because I worked and he did not, again, it annoyed him. So I started seeing more tendencies, but I was 22. So I didn't really know what narcissism was or that it even existed. I had a pretty regular childhood. My parents were certainly not abusive towards my sister, myself, or each other. So this was a new land for me. This was a foreign land for me. And things slowly progressed and got worse, and he began a downward spiral, basically. And as he spiraled down, the narcissism and the abuse got worse. So I was the one working. He was the one staying home. We had no children at that time. I had gotten my degree. I was a teacher. I was commuting to work every day, making the money that we had to live on, but giving it all to him when I got home. And when I got home, this was back in the olden days for you young guys, there was no direct deposit. So I would go and I would cash my check, and I was allowed $100 from my own paycheck, and I had to put it in an envelope and write down every time I spent it what I spent the money on. So there's that huge control piece that played into my story. So now you have the trauma bond, you have the discarding, you have the love bombing, you have the control, you have the name calling. Still, I loved him with my entire being. I literally would have laid down and died for that man. And I know that those of you that are either listening or going to watch this on a replay are going to know exactly how I feel. Because I'm sure that at some point you felt the same way about your partner. If your narcissist is your boss, your friend, your parent, you're going to have strong feelings for that person. It's just going to show up in a different way. So, I kept trying to think that if I was a better wife, he would love me. If I was able to balance the checkbook, he would love me. If I stopped burning dinner, he would love me. I did everything I could to try to get him to love me, never realizing that he didn't even know what love was, in no fault of his own. And I know that that sounds kind of weird coming from a survivor of narcissistic abuse, but I've done a lot of research, and these people are born with the tendency. And when I mean by born with the tendency, I mean that there's a genetic piece to narcissism. On top of the genetic piece is the way the child is raised. from when they are very, very small. And so when they are either neglected, which is rare, but more put on the pedestal, the narcissistic tendencies begin to develop and begin to come out. So my ex-husband was was the first boy in an Italian family, and his sister was 23, I think, years older than him. So she was already married and she had her own child. And so my ex, I hate using a name because my husband's name now is John, and of course that's the name you always want to pick, so I'll go with Dave. So Dave was the king of the family. Every aunt and uncle gave him a weekly allowance on top of his parents giving him money, and he was very entitled. And that entitlement, along with those narcissistic genes that were within him, smushed together, makes a narcissist. So we ended up buying a house, just like a normal married couple, but I began seeing things that would make me cry, that would hurt me, that would make me feel like I was never enough. And I will talk a little bit about feelings that block us from recovery, and one of them is not feeling worthy, not feeling enough. So when we're in a stage where we're not feeling enough, we can't get better because we feel like we don't deserve to get better. So every time I touch my hair, I think my mother's like, stop touching your hair, Bonnie, but I can't help it, it's a habit. So anyway, you know, my professional life was going great. I was a teacher. I still am a teacher. I got my master's degree in psychology. I loved my job. I didn't love the commute, but I did love the kids very, very much. And they brought me a lot of happiness, and he was still busy staying home, living, again, off of my salary, and he worked a few hours at the YMCA here and there in the gym. So as time progressed, after about 4 years, we decided we wanted to have a child, which I was kind of surprised at because, again, not knowing what a narcissist was, I did know that he liked to be the center of my world. So we did, after the 4 years, decide to have a child, and we had a beautiful, gorgeous, smart baby girl who is now 27. Her name is Stephanie, and after Stephanie was born, the spiral continued downward because my attention as a new and young, I was only 26, young mother was on my daughter. And she was very colicky and she cried a lot. So, and I had postpartum depression. So I will say that all my attention was not on him, but I gave as much as a person could possibly give. And I'm going to one day put up a before and after picture, and I'm going to answer your question in 1 second, Jenny, and you will see that I do not even look like the same person when I was married to him. I was drawn, didn't do my hair, I didn't wear makeup, I did not take care of Bonnie because I was so busy taking care of Dave and taking care of Stephanie and working and doing all the things that young people do. So Jenny's asking about experienced disassociation, and I'm going to talk about that. So disassociation is almost a feeling, and if you're talking about something else, Jenny, please let me know, but it's almost like a feeling like you're not in your body any longer. You are almost watching a TV show as your life is unfolding in front of you. That's how it was for me. And that was my escape. And I'm sure for most of you listening, you can relate to that. That's your escape. You can't escape physically, So you disassociate yourself. You take your mind out of this equation. And it sounds weird and it sounds undoable, but when you're in trauma, it's very doable. But he still hadn't hit me or was physically abusive at all when Stephanie was born. He began to become more sexually abusive, and he, of course, was already financially abusive because I couldn't have any money, and I had to literally call him from the mall if I wanted to buy something. I couldn't just pick it up and purchase it. I had to call him from the payphone because we didn't have cell phones back then, and ask him if I could purchase an outfit. So he was already, the financial abuse was there, the sexual abuse was there. That was almost from the beginning. The emotional abuse was there. He was good to our daughter. I'm not going to take that away from him to a point. And that point came, and I'm so glad right now nobody's home, so nobody can hear me, and I don't have to talk quietly. That point came when my son was born. So my son Matthew came around 5 years later. We did wait quite a while until we had another child, which was by choice. And the day Matthew was born, the day, and I will remember this for the rest of my life, was the day he could not love Stephanie any longer. There's only room in their, I can't even say soul, in their void for one person. And here was his son. And his daughter was immediately kicked out of that spot and became the target of his verbal and emotional abuse that I know of until the day that we left, which is 18 years. I was married for a total of 25. I left after 22. So my daughter grew up as an abused victim. And she's gone through a lot of therapy, and she's an amazing, amazing person right now. And she's a happy person, and she has come into her own. Jenny's asking cruel to the kids. Yes, yeah, cruel to her, not his son. Cruel to her. So as Matthew grew older, the abuse became physical. Because again, he only had one spot in his void, and that spot was reserved for Matt. And there was no room for Stephanie or myself. And so we were abused in many different ways. Stephanie, not that I am aware of to this day, was ever physically abused, but she was emotionally and verbally abused. And this is where I just want to veer off for a second, because I want people to know that I know how you feel. I was scared to leave. People are like, why don't you leave? I would never put up with that. I have news for you. You'd put up with it because you're scared, because you want to keep your family together, because you don't want anybody to know, because you don't want to hurt anyone, because you're afraid that he's going to get custody and you're not going to be able to protect your children. There's a million reasons why we stay. So I guess I get a little upset when people say, why didn't you just leave? You have no idea what we've been through. So when people say that, it almost angers me, because until you walked in our shoes, don't ask that question. I was asked that question so many times. Well, why didn't you just leave? Well, I didn't just leave because I thought he would get custody, and who was going to be there to protect my children if I wasn't there? That's my main reason for not leaving. Did I think he could try harder and he could be a better husband and things could be better? Yes. And I kept trying to be a better wife, and I kept trying to make things better and hoping that our lives would go back to the fantasy that it used to be. But it didn't. It got worse. and the abuse got worse. And the physical and the sexual abuse for me is still the hardest part of recovery. The verbal and emotional abuse was difficult to hear. You know, I had no self-worth, I had no self-esteem, I had no genuine care about who I was. I was so busy trying to pick up the pieces for the children. He was in charge of dinner, of course. I was not allowed to cook dinner, but he would cook one dinner a week, which was spaghetti and meatballs. So on Monday we'd have spaghetti on meatballs, and on Tuesday, Wednesday we had spaghetti, the leftovers. Then on Thursday he would make it into a pizza with the spaghetti, with the meatballs on top. Every single week. Friday, by the grace of God, we were allowed to go out for dinner. So I would sneak, before I came home from work, I would get my children food and I would put it in their backpacks. And I would tell them, go to your room and do your homework, which meant go to your room and eat your dinner. Because the food was inedible. And they were my main objective. Like many of you out there, your children is what prevents you from sometimes leaving. Your children sometimes prevent you from acting back. When dishes are being thrown at you, when you're being smacked in the face, when you're being choked. I know my mom's watching this, and I know her hearing this each time is difficult, but I have to advocate for us. So you have to listen, Mom, sorry. I disassociated, which is exactly what Jenny was talking about, and I was going to get to that point. The sexual abuse came to a point where my only escape was to take myself out of my body while it was happening, because there was no escape. And there was a lot of it. Even with the children home, it was not a better part of my journey. So he started becoming abusive to my son in my son's early, I guess, preteens, you would say, like around 10, 11 years old. He started to become verbally abusive to Matthew because Matthew finally had a voice. And on a side note, which most of you know, Matthew has a life-threatening disease known as primary immune deficiency disease, and especially now with COVID, his life is pretty much in danger all the time because he does not have an immune system. So Matthew has always been treated differently by myself, by my ex-husband, by his sister, by everyone around him, because life is very fragile for him. He does get weekly treatments that help keep him alive. They do not cover COVID yet, however, so we need to be careful, but that's part of our own life. That's a whole nother road I could go down. He started to become abusive verbally and emotionally to Matthew, and then one day he got mad about something, and he yelled at Matthew, and Matthew walked out and left. And he was little, he was maybe 9, and he left with his basketball. And Stephanie turned to me and said, "Mommy, it's okay." And it still hurts. It's okay that he does it to me, but now he's doing it to Matthew. So by the time, if Matthew was 9, she was 14. By the time she was 14, she thought it was okay for somebody to treat her like that and disrespect her in that manner. And on a side note, I want you to know that that's what perpetuates the cycle. My daughter saw me allowing this to happen, and so she allowed it to happen. And I allowed it to happen for another 4 years. The verbal and emotional abuse against my children, the physical the verbal, the emotional, the financial, the sexual abuse against myself. If anybody wants to jump in at any point with a question, I'm so happy that tonight the comments are coming up. Please, 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 I want, this is all on the table. I put it out there because I need to tell my story to help others to get better and to recover. And so one day, my kids saw a lot of things they shouldn't have seen. They saw their father throw dishes at me. They saw their father burn our wedding pictures. They saw their father choke me. They saw terrible, terrible things, and they would beg me, please, Mommy, leave. It's not safe here anymore. And so, wow, Jenny and I have very similar stories. And so I felt like a bad mom. I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. If I leave, who's going to protect them? And if I stay, this is what they see. So what do you do in that position? That's something that you have to contemplate and answer on your own. But I will tell you that, and I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again, the system failed my children twice. Once when my son was brought to the emergency room and asked point blankly if he felt safe at home, and his answer was no, and nobody did anything. The second time the system failed my children was when my husband had choked me, my ex-husband had choked me, and it's so hard to understand unless you've walked in the shoes, but after the choking was done and I had the marks around my neck, and at that point I was taking pictures because I had a feeling I was going to need them. I dropped my kids off at school and I went to work and taught a full day like nothing had ever happened. But my daughter was very, very upset by this and went to a teacher. And being a teacher, I know that we are mandated by law to call an abusive situation in. Whether it's real or not is not our decision to make as a teacher. Anything we hear or see, we are obligated, we are mandated to call in or we lose our license. That person, and I know the person who she told, never called it in. So we went on like this until Stephanie turned 18. We went on with the abuse and it got worse and he kept spiraling downward, and the only way I can explain it is you could see his crazy come out, his eyes, and I don't know how many of you can relate to the change in their facial expressions and their actual eyes when things are going to go bad. And so Stephanie and I used to call them the scary eyes. The scary eyes are coming. We knew, let's go find something to do far away from him. By that time he was having, I hate to even say affairs, because to me an affair is when you fall in love with somebody else and you have a relationship. He was having one night stands with prostitutes and was so grateful to bring me home one of his sexually transmitted diseases, and I had no idea. When the doctor told me that I had, what did I have? It was so long ago. Yeah, I can't think of the name of it. When I had that, I had to ask my sister, what is this? The doctor says I have this. What is this? And she said, you better ask your husband where he's been. And I still could not comprehend. I could not believe that I would have sworn on a stack of Bibles that that man would never cheat on me. But he had a porn addiction, had a gambling addiction I didn't know about, and he had bulging eyes. Yep. And he had the gambling, the porn, and the prostitutes, the sex addiction. So when my daughter turned 18, that year I had been moved grade levels. I had taught kindergarten for many, many years, and they moved me up to second grade and I got moved to a different floor in my school. And I really feel that that was done for a reason, because I met new people upstairs. I met new people after teaching kindergarten for so many years. And those people made me realize that something was wrong with my marriage, that their spouses didn't treat them like my spouse treated me. And they got their nails done and they got their hair done and they were wearing nice clothes. And I started to look at myself and I started thinking, why can't I have those things? So the light started coming on. And we started arguing. I started internally arguing with myself as to what am I going to do about this. So of course my mom asks, why didn't you go to your family? I don't know why other women didn't go to their families. I can only speak for myself, but I'm guessing you have the same story. It's embarrassing. For 20 years, I lived a facade of 2 teachers with a boy and a girl and a swimming pool and a beautiful house. And I didn't want to tell anybody about the chaos and the drama that was going on behind that door, because I felt like a failure. I felt unworthy. I felt not enough. I felt like it was my fault. How could I go to my mother and my father and my sister and tell them that this was happening because I wasn't strong enough to stop it? I didn't have the means, so to speak, to get out. He was in control of all the money. I literally started hiding money. This is the truth. I would go shopping. This is back in the olden days. Go shopping and write the check for $30. We were allowed to write the check for $35 over the amount. And I knew he'd never look at the receipt. So I'd go food shopping and I would write the check for $35 over the amount. And he would, and I would take that money and I would hide it, believe it or not, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but I would hide it in a maxi pad in the wrapper of one because I figured he's never going to look there. And so that's how I started saving money, was hiding it. And when I had gotten to a certain point, I gave a certain amount of money to a friend and we repeated it. And as my friends became more involved, they made me realize you can't be in this marriage any longer. You can't do this anymore. So Stephanie was turning 18 and Matthew was 14. And Stephanie has always been a very smart, academically oriented person. She still is. And so she wanted a Mac computer for her birthday. She was going to Marist College. For those of you who live in New York, she went to Marist. And she needed a computer. They all need a computer. So, and if I didn't tell him I was going to buy the computer, you know, all hell would break loose. So I told him, I'm going to the bank, I'm taking out X amount of money, and I'm buying Stephanie the Mac computer. I think it was like $1,300. And when I got to the bank, he had totally taken all our money and closed all our accounts. I didn't want to ruin Stephanie's birthday. So thank God I had a credit card and we went and got her the computer and the dress, whatever she wanted, I bought her because I knew after that weekend was over, I was leaving. I was done. You took what I worked 20 years for and put in the bank and you took it away from me. And I don't know, and I can't tell you why that was the tipping point, but that was my tipping point. Everybody has their own. Everybody has their own stories, but we all have the same story, if you understand that. We've all had the trauma bonds. We all have the dissociation. We all have the abuse. We just have different characters. And that's why it was important for me to come on tonight and tell my story. Because I'm not just somebody with a psychology degree. and somebody who lived your life for 25 years. So after the weekend, I said to him, when you come home tonight, we won't be here. And he said, I don't know, go. At that time I meant it. Because you say it a lot of times, but you're really scared and you don't mean it. You're just hoping that they change. But I left with nothing. I took nothing. I took myself, I took my children, I took our dog. And I left. And I started over again. So when I tell you that you can start over again with nothing but the clothes on your back, I am not speaking that from reading a book or reading somebody else's experience. I am telling you that from my experience. Yes, did I have a great job? Thank God I did. And I know it's harder for those of you who don't have a job that affords you that, but there is always help out there. There are soup kitchens, there are churches, there are shelters. If you go on Facebook, there's actually hidden groups to help you match up with roommates. There's so many resources out there. For me, I went to a resource called Safe Homes, and they got the ball rolling for me, and they came with me to court every time I went to court, and they counseled me, and they got me through a very difficult point in my life and my children's life. But the good news is I am here to tell my story, and you can be here to tell your story one day. And last summer, honestly, I was just looking, because I am a teacher and I'm off in the summer. Last summer I was honestly just looking for something to do, make a little money, you know, do something over the summer, not be bored, etc. And I fell into, I don't want to say like I'm this wonderful thing, but I am a good writer. So I fell into this blogging routine where I would write about different things that we learn through life. Not necessarily the abuse, but just different life lessons, which slowly evolved into becoming a trauma advocate and a certified mindset transitional coach. And so what I mean by that, and this is where I'm going to stray from my story, and I'm going to tell you what I want to do in order to help you become more like me, which is I'm way into recovery now. And so what I tell my clients is, this is recovery, okay? It's like a mountain. You cannot go over recovery and get better, and you cannot go around recovery and get better. You have to dig. That wasn't such a good hand move, but you have to dig through the tunnel and make your path and deal with your pain and look at your ugly, as I call it, to recover. And that's what I help people do. But I learned a new way to do recovery. I've learned how to really put my past to rest. Because once you've been in a traumatic situation and you've gone through trauma, your entire world changes. You might not know it because you're looking like this. You're looking at the trauma, but you're not looking at what's around you. How is that trauma affecting your job? How is that trauma affecting your relationship with your friends? How is that trauma affecting the relationship with your family? All you can see and all you're focused on is how to make it better. You don't see the effects that it has on everything and everyone around you. So it does. And that's my position now as a mindset, transformational mindset coach and a trauma advocate, is to help you to deal with your trauma, to look at it, I call it the ugly. I say you have to take out your ugly, you have to look at it, you have to examine it, you have to take it apart, and then you have to put it down. We can't label ourselves as victims forever, because you'll lose your life. You might be alive, but you won't be living. You have to go through the ugly and then put it down. So I decided that I wanted to give back to the community that helped me so much and become a trauma coach. So I am taking classes through the Arizona Trauma Institute. So hopefully that will be done soon, and I will be certified in that. But I am certified in transformational mindset with happiness as my minor. And what I found is that I went on a trip inside myself this year, because I needed to find out what was lacking in my life. And I found out I was living in scarcity mode. My body was unaligned to my thoughts. Welcome to my world. Somebody's home, and so the dog's barking. We made it pretty far without them barking though, so I'm happy about that. So I had a lot of anxiety still. I felt empty inside. I felt like something was just wrong. And I wanted to be in control of my life. I wanted to fill my life with abundance and grace and happiness and being true to myself. Because even though I was out of that abusive situation, and I'm going to be 100% honest here, and anybody who knows my current husband will attest, he is a saint. My husband is, I thank God for him every single day. I don't know how he puts up with me, but he does. So I needed to get rid of that scarcity mode, get rid of that thinking that if I bought something, I wouldn't have any money to replace it with. And I learned a lot that money is actually reciprocal energy. So when you give, you get back. And I learned from somebody online that even when you see a penny on the floor, you pick it up and you declare abundance. It's your way of putting out to the world what you want in your life. And we all want abundance in our life. So this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about the program that I decided to build for you. And what the program is for people who feel like they're stuck where they are, where you feel like you're never good enough, you're unworthy, where you feel like you're on a constant roller coaster ride and you just want to get off. When you want to live freely and break the cycle of trauma and break the cycle of abuse and live your best life. When you're ready to have a clear mindset and a complete aligned action to manifest your world, that's my job, to help you get there. And once you get there, you're free. So for me, life is meant to be enjoyed. And once you overcome the past trauma, you will be inspired to make positive changes. You're going to want to connect with like-minded people. You're going to want to be working with people who have similar goals that you have. And so that's why I came up with this program called, I forgot the name of my own program. Isn't that just typical of a Bonnie move? And you know, so it's called the Serene Confident Transformational Action Takers Ready for Results. So it's a long name, but it's an important name, because when you're done with that chaos and drama, you want to live a confident and serene life. And I want to be the one to take you there if you're ready. And that's why I added action takers ready for results. If you want to just come and go through your ugly, that's fine, but that's not recovery. That's living your life over and over and over again and spinning your wheels and going nowhere. When you live in alignment and you live your truth, then you're in recovery. So I want to talk to you just for a few minutes about that. So alignment means that you have goals in your head that are aligned with what you want for your future self. Clarity is more like it's a clear explanation to yourself of your goals. And I suggest writing your goals down. As I say in my lives, I have sticky notes everywhere because I want to be a successful trauma advocate. And that is I align my actions so that my world will revolve around becoming a trauma advocate. And we need to remember that we are in control of our own thoughts. And what you think about all day long is what you become. So if you think negatively all day long, what's going to happen? You're going to be a negative person. If you think positively all day long, you're going to be a positive person. So if you ever get a chance to listen to The Strangest Secret, it's very, very old, but it's on YouTube. The man talks about dirt. And he talks about planting in the dirt poison and planting in the dirt corn. Okay? And both are able to grow. And that's the same thing with positivity and negativity in your thought patterns. Whatever you plant grows. So you want to know exactly what your goal is. You want to think about it, and you want to be as specific as possible. So when I say I want to be a trauma advocate, what does that mean? I want to be a trauma advocate for women. And I have to say there are a few men in our group who are ready to take action and recover. So I'm very specific in who I want to help. Your thoughts have to align with your actions. So if I'm thinking that's what I want to be, I have to take action that aligns with it, which means I have to open up a Facebook group that allows for you guys to come in, to have somewhere safe to vent, to say, me too, or I'm not the only one. My actions have to offer you suggestions on how to help yourself. Because as my own coach says, if I have the answer to your problem and I don't give you the answer, then well, she said a bad word, but what a jerk I am for not giving you the answer. And it took me a long time to learn that really I'm here because I'm here to help you grow and recover. And since I've learned how to grow and recover, I would be a jerk not to teach it to you. So think about all the ways that you are deserving of the life that you want to live and write them down. So my coach had us write 100 reasons why somebody should work with us. 100 reasons. And it's not easy, but it's not as hard as you think. Because when you start growing your corn, growing your positivity, and squashing your poison, your negativity, you begin to love who you are as a person. And what other people think about you doesn't really matter anymore. That's when you know you're in recovery. Thankfulness, mindfulness, and gratitude. I'm going to end with those 3 things because I know I've been talking a long time and it's hard to sit for a long time. I totally understand that, but there was so much information I wanted to get out to you. But I do everything with gratitude. First thing I do when I wake up in the morning is thank. I do believe in God. Some people don't, so I'm going to use the word universe. I thank the universe that I opened my eyes. I thank the universe that I have my husband opening his eyes. My children are okay. I am so grateful for those things. And when something not so great happens to me, I dig deep and find gratitude in it. I'm trying to think of an example, which I can't offhand. But if something bad were to happen to me and has happened to me, let's go with Matthew. Let's go with Matthew's illness. One would think, how can a mother be grateful that their child is sick? How come I'm not holding anger? And how come I'm not asking, why my kid? Because I have accepted in recovery, it's my kid. I can't ask why. It is what it is. And you know what I'm grateful for? I'm grateful for every single day I get to spend with him. And that's what I mean about finding the goodness in a bad situation. When I first left my ex-husband, I had a friend at work whose husband died, and we, of course, were going through similar yet different experiences. And so he used to say to her, Marie, we have two arms. Some people only have one. And that was a little joke between us. But you know what? That's what gratitude is. It's finding the good in the worst possible scenario. So you get your arm cut off. Well, aren't you lucky? You have another one? Some people don't. That's what I mean by gratitude. Mindfulness. Stay in the moment. Anxiety occurs when you think ahead. Depression occurs when you look in the rearview mirror. When you stay present and you stay mindful, you stay focused on your goals and you manifest the life that you want to live. So I really wanted to talk about letting go of limiting beliefs, but I know I've been chit-chatting a long time, and I appreciate those of you who stayed with me and listened. And here's my other announcement is I finally have my program set, and I have my program ready, and I have my program to offer to you guys, which I'm so excited because I do have the answers to help you live the life that you were intended to live. So what I'm offering is a 12-week class. And within that 12 weeks, you're going to get a free 30-minute consultation. We need to talk to each other first. You need to tell me your story. I need to be able to hear your story and make sure that we are compatible and that we work well together. And then I will meet with you, which is different from what most coaches do. Most coaches do a group meeting. I do a one-on-one because we each have our own story. So I will meet with you for those 12 weeks, once a week by yourself. And then I will also meet with you once a week as a group. Because sometimes we need friends or somebody who's going through the same thing to be by our side. Also in my program, you will understand and I will help you with the process of taking aligned action, which is, I kind of went on the surface of it, but I would get into specifics of how you come up with a thought, you get clarity on that thought, you take aligned action, and you manifest the life of your dreams. I will help you with boundaries. I will help you with self-care. I don't mean taking a bath. I mean actually caring about who you are as a person. I will help you with gratitude. I will help you with mindfulness. I will be there for you. And when I say that, I mean unlimited texting when it's needed. I will be there for you because when it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you can't wait to talk to somebody, I have 2 children. My phone is always next to me. So I'm there. Encouragement, a positive attitude towards you and the life that you're building for yourself. You'll be covered with affirmations, things that I can help you with that will make you feel better each day, video resources, And the Facebook group, which would be a paid Facebook group separate from Turning Pain into Power, it would be for the paid members of our group, and we would get some more lives in there and some more tips and strategies thrown in there as well. It's a 12-week program that will help you transition, not only if you've been in an abusive situation, and so I want to make that really, really clear, that this program is for anyone who is in a transformational situation, which could mean recovery, which could mean divorce, which could mean retirement, which could mean, God forbid, death of a family member. Our lives are always changing. We're fluid. We're fluid. Our feelings are fluid. Our lives are fluid. And so how do we deal with all those changes? That's where my 12-week program comes in. Again, it's a one-on-one with you once a week. It's a group once a week. It's a live, like I'm doing right now, where it's kind of one-sided, once a week. There's journal prompts, there's affirmations, there's exercises. There's so much support because I've walked in your shoes and I know we need that support. And what I'm really excited about is, since it is my first time really offering this program, I'm giving it out at a special price. Because a beta program is a program that's run for the first time and we kind of learn from each other. Maybe I did something that you can suggest I do better, and hopefully I'm helping you and you come out the winner on this one. But I'm offering it for a special price for 12 weeks for $997, which I totally understand. If you need a payment plan, I work with you however it works for you. You don't have to worry about that. I'm definitely flexible with payment plans, but I really hope that you will join me on the journey to recovery. Again, mine was from abuse. Yours can be from alcohol, divorce, codependency, depression, anxiety. Your recovery can be from anything, because the story is the same, but the characters are different. So when I'm finished with this live, I'm going to put up a link, and I will constantly be putting up my link to my new program. I'm going to keep it limited, so I'm only going to take the first 10 people that sign up for the 12-week program. I want to keep it small the first time. I think 10 is a perfect amount. It'll give me time to meet with you, discuss your own strategies, meet as a group, meet as a lecture, something you guys want to learn about, and giving you all the tools that you need on the journey to self-discovery and recovery. So I am really excited that that came together for me, and that I'm hoping that you will all be a part of it. So I will drop the link for that under the live, and I will come on Saturday with coffee and questions, because I do want to talk about some limiting beliefs that I think we should talk about, that you don't even know that are in your way. And once you can get those limiting beliefs out of your way, you become unlimited. So I hope, oh, there's my alarm to go off. I hope everybody has a great evening. And again, to my new friends, thank you for listening and for maybe getting a different view of who I am as a person and where I've been. I am very open with my story, very honest with my story. I don't skip over the bad parts. It's my life, and it's out there for anybody to listen to. Because if I can help and not be a jerk to just one person, I've made a difference in the world. And really, that's what it's all about. Your material stuff goes in the garbage. And I know that firsthand because A, my father passed, and B, my mother sold her house. So we know where your stuff goes. It's the mark you make in this world that keeps your legacy alive. Things are just that. They're things. Except this picture of my dad. doing his thing, singing, that I keep next to me as a reminder. Not to remind me that I miss him or even to remind me that he existed, but remind me to live my life to the fullest extent that I can. To never back down, to never be afraid, and to forge ahead no matter what. Because although my dad lived a short life, he lived life on his terms. And I need that reminder every day. And I, in turn, want to be your reminder every day. So I please hope that you'll join our special 12-week program and learn how to love the life you live. And I will see you guys on Saturday. We're going to talk a little bit about limiting beliefs. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.